Welcome to the first video tutorial for ITedge. Today we'll be looking at installation of Windows 8, Windows Server 2008 R2 and Windows Server 2012. In all three cases, the first screen that comes up after you've inserted the CD and booted the machine is similar for all three operating systems. Simply choose your language, time and currency format, and input method. Here today we'll choose Australia. The next screen asks you what type of operating system you want to install. For most of you, you'll be choosing standard. In a more technical application, you would choose enterprise or data center. I would normally choose a server core installation, which doesn't have a GUI. Everything needs to be done from PowerShell or remote desktops or other. For the purpose of this video and future tutorials, we're going to choose a full installation. Accept the licensing agreement. And I would choose custom here. This allows us to partition our disks. You can see we already have some partitions here. We can remove these because I don't want the data. This will give us one unpartitioned space, which in this case we're going to make one 80 gig partition. Some of you might prefer to have two partitions, one for data, one for the system. That is also doable at this screen. Simply create your new partition. And your second partition. And you can see you've got a system partition. You just highlight that and click next at this point. It will install Windows there. You have a data partition and then of course your system reserved for booting. However, I prefer the single disk approach. So we'll just click next. This procedure is the same in 2012. It defaults to core installation. Again, simply for the purpose of this tutorial and future tutorials, we will choose GUI. And of course, Windows 8 doesn't have those options. You simply accept the license agreement and then continue. Partitioning is exactly the same. Once the machines have finished installing Windows, they will come up to a screen asking you for an administrative password. And the Windows 8. So here, you must enter an administrator password. Something complicated, preferably a passphrase. In the case of Windows 8, you have to name the PC. As you see, these are excluded. Now this is simply a color scheme. Choose whatever you want. I would normally choose Express settings here. You do have the choice to customize. and you can go through the settings. They can all be changed later as well. You'll see that Windows 2008 and Windows 2012 will be at a desktop or a login screen to get to the desktop. With Windows 8, if you've got an internet connection, it's going to ask you to sign in with your Microsoft account. I wouldn't normally do this. A little trick that I have is simply to go back. We can disable the network connection. This is the same as pulling the blue cable out of the back of the computer or turn the Wi-Fi off. And then when we don't have an internet connection, it will ask us to create a local account. And we'll turn it back on. Now, we don't want to make the first account administrator, so let's choose something else like setup. And a hint. Clearly, don't make this your password. This is something to remind you. Okay, now all three systems are installed and they're at their first screens. Behind the screens you'll see the desktops. At this point you're going to do one of two things. You're going to join the machine to an existing domain or go and view our other tutorial, which is creating a new Active Directory domain. Assuming you've already got a domain set up, we'll go through the process of joining the domain. Type in computer, right click on this PC and choose properties. Go to properties, change settings under computer name and domain name, hit change, choose domain, type in the name of your domain, hit OK, and then it will prompt you for the domain administrator credentials. However, I'm going to hit cancel and do the same task using PowerShell, which is my preferred way. You should always, or virtually always, run PowerShell as an administrator. The alternative to this is to disable UAC, and that way it always runs as the person that you're logged in as. Now, add computer, domain name. I'm just using tab, by the way, to switch between the options. The name of the domain, and the domain administrator. Domain first, then the administrator name. And of course the password. Once this machinery starts, it'll be part of your domain. Now, Windows Server 2008 and 2012. At this point, they're sitting at the desktop, but they have no name. And it's probably best to set a static IP address. So firstly, Start, Control Panel, Network and Sharing, change adapter settings, properties, IPv4, and here you can set a static IP address and your DNS. Time, of course, time zone, and computer, properties, and this is where you'd set the computer name, and of course its domain. Once you hit OK, administrative password, domain administrative password, hit OK and you'll be on the domain. Now, the way I like to do it with PowerShell, here's a script that I would use. You want to run PowerShell as the local administrator. Okay, let's step you through it. Now, to execute these PowerShell commands, you need to be remote signed. The first command simply gives you the status. You can see we're restricted. Second command sets it to remote signed. Accept that. As you can see, we're now remote signed. That will allow us to run the rest of these commands. Okay, this here just inspects the adapter. If you've only got the one adapter, then that's fantastic, because then we don't need any further configuration. Set a variable with that adapter. And then using that variable, we can enable a static IP address, a gateway, and then DNS. Now I've only got the one DNS server, and its IP is 11, which is our Active Directory domain. And you can see here IP set, gateway set, DNS set. Set another variable which gets the computer system object. This isn't needed. This changes the workgroup name to ITedge. This one is important though, which is your server name. So set variable and change the name. Now we have to manually enable automatic updates. That can be done in here, simply by turning this on. This allows us to view all the different time zones, and that is used with the next command to set a time zone. Finally, to join the domain. Now let's just check that all these settings have worked. You can see the time zone is now Brisbane. The network adapter has IP address, subnet mask, gateway, DNS. And the computer's name has been changed, and the new workgroup is ITedge. So this all worked perfectly. And if you wanted to execute this whole thing as a single line, a single set of commands, it would literally only need to be a script like that, and your computer will be, and your server will be set up. So add computer to a domain name, ITedge. Path is the container servers, make sure that exists on your Active Directory server. Username and password. A tip, if we were to type this out, we can press tab and it will fill the next part. So then you go to domain, so tab, etc., etc. And there you have it. After a restart, this machine will be on the domain. Okay, so for Windows 2012, the procedure is basically the same. Computer, right-click, Properties, Change Settings, Change. Again, you've got the machine name, domain. You click OK, username, password, etc., etc. Down here, just time and date, time zone, and you can change it there as well. PowerShell is a little different. Again, we want to go PowerShell, run as administrator. Just to better explain it, I'll show you what I have here. Same execution policy. Yes, we need it to be remote signed. We need to get the interface number, okay, and for that we use this command. You can see all these interfaces listed. We're not interested in the IPv6, just the IPv4, and we're not interested in the loopback. So here you go, number 12, Ethernet 0. And as you can see, I've put number 12 in, here and here, setting my IP address, my subnet mask, and if you need a hand changing the notation of that, you can use a website called Subnet Calculator, and the default gateway, followed by your DNS servers. And I'm going to make that 10 in this case. The next part of the script, this is for the Windows automatic updates, sets it to auto. Set a variable for the computer system. Again, not really needed, we're changing the workgroup name to ITedge. This is important, renaming the server, and then setting the time zone, and then joining the domain. So let's step through this. We've done that. That's all set. Let's change the name. Don't need this one here, let's just look everything up. Again, domain controller, you'd set NTP. This isn't a domain controller, it's just joining domains, so we get all time synchronization from that. And then, of course, we can join the domain. Before we do that, I'll just show you that everything's worked. Control panel, actually, computer properties. You can see here, 2012. This will change when we join the domain. Time zone is Brisbane. And of course you can see we've set IP address and all that other information, which you could also get to. Click, click, click. Here, you can see it's all populated successfully. Don't believe that restart parameter works. There you go. Changes will take effect once you've rebooted the computer. And there you have it. The Windows 8, Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2012 all built and have joined our domain successfully. Please leave any comments you have in the chat or on the in the forums, and if you have any problems, I'll try and answer them. This has been a presentation of itedge.com.au. Thank you.